And now, on to the big one. The one that's been talked about in the media for the last 2 weeks, constantly, every single day on First Take on ESPN, like no tomorrow. The MVP. This one's going to be very controversial. Again, you can split hairs here and work out who your MVP is. And you still will probably cop a lot of flack for it. So either way, whichever way you decide to go down on this, you're probably going to cop some criticism, even if you're not a voter. So yeah, going into it, we'll get right into it then. So my vote.
Keen to hear what you have to say. Keen to hear.
Drum roll. It's Nikola Jokic.
Alright.
And I'm going to give my justification for it. So, this one, again, firstly, let me put why I think Embiid has a case for it. So there's a few weeks left to play, and there's a couple of matchups that may sway this in a particular direction. So you've got the Philly-Denver matchup on March 27th and the Philly-Milwaukee game on April 2nd. So, depending on how that goes, that will probably determine who the MVP is. Personally speaking, I don't think this in terms of my own opinion, but I think that the way the media is progressing it and the way they're trying to put forward this case, Joel Embiid will end up being the MVP. But in my opinion, the reason why I think Jokic will win it is for the following. But before that, the reason why Embiid's case is strong is he's been runner-up the last 2 years. He's the league's leading scorer, and he's an anchor of a top 6 defense. And he's currently in the middle of a 10-game scoring run that has only been matched twice in the century. He also has the Sixers battling for the number 2 seed with the same number of wins as Jokic's Nuggets. So that's a reason why you could make the case for Embiid. But for me personally, the reason why I think he wins is because of the following. So, this is not a best player award. It's the measure of value and who's the most valuable player. Which is to say, the team context should matter. So you often hear arguments suggesting a player shouldn't be punished for having a strong supporting cast. And yes, while I agree with that to a degree, in a call this close, it becomes difficult, if not outright disingenuous, to argue that a player whose team falls completely off a cliff when he leaves the floor isn't inherently more valuable than a player whose team remains positive even in his absence. So it's another way of asking, who is the least disposable? So through this prism, a much clearer picture, and thus a leading candidate emerges, and that for me is Jokic. It's always been Jokic. Jokic's on and off numbers have of course been touted, and I'm not providing anything new here, but this is part of the problem. People get tired of the same evidence, and the same way they get tired of the same answer. So when Jokic is on the floor, the Nuggets outscore the opponents by 13.3 points per 100 possessions. And when he isn't on the floor, the Nuggets get outscored 13.8 points per 100 possessions. Put another way, the Nuggets operate as the best team in the league by a mile with Jokic and the worst team in the league also by a mile without him. You can say these numbers are more of a reflection of Denver's weak bench, but that's exactly what makes Jokic so valuable within the context of these circumstances. Denver cannot survive without him. The Bucks, on the other hand, remain a net positive team without Giannis. You might say the Sixers falling by 10.4 points per 100 possessions without Embiid is something, until you do the Denver math and realize the Nuggets fall by over 27 points per 100 without Jokic. Around draft time, we love to invoke the terms of floor and ceiling. Denver doesn't have a floor with Jokic. Remove him from the equation, and you basically fall into a black hole with that Nuggets team. But he also qualifies as the biggest ceiling raiser. So as long as Jokic is on the floor, no matter who he's with, they boast a higher net rating than Philly with Embiid and Harden playing together, and Milwaukee with Giannis, Drew Holiday, and Brook Lopez on the floor. Even if you take away Jokic's 2 best teammates in Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray, the Nuggets at plus 11.4 per 100 still qualify as more statistically dominating team than the full-strength Bucks or Sixers. Again, this is where the word statistically is going to lose some people. They're tired of all the advanced numbers. Basketball isn't played on a spreadsheet, they'll say. Watch the games. To this, I would agree. If you watch the Nuggets with and without Jokic, you don't need a spreadsheet. But if you don't watch the Nuggets, or you don't watch them as much as the Sixers or Bucks, then you're being willfully ignorant by dismissing or even diminishing these numbers. They are not lying. And they are also not, by the way, meant to disparage the considerable merits of Embiid or Antetokounmpo. That's the part that always dirties these debates. In an effort to build up one case, we end up tearing the others down. All three of these guys are MVP level players, having MVP worthy seasons. In fact, that's a statement that can be made about no fewer than 10 guys this season. Maybe more. The top end talent pool has never been deeper, and that's hands down, you can see that throughout the league. Which is why these debates become so complicated. We're trying to split the finest of hairs, as I mentioned earlier, but anytime you're trying to figure out something complicated, the best approach to doing so, whenever possible, is to break things down into their simplest forms. If we do that, Jokic will win. He's the simplest answer, and in my experience, the simple answer is usually synonymous with the right one. And that is my take on the MVP race. But put it simply, though, like, if I'm going to go back to that, put it simply, I think we talk about it like being the best player award, like I mentioned. It's more about who's valuable, and again, you've got to
take him off their team.
They're not going to compete. Even that's like why I could make the case literally for Luka to be MVP, because arguably he's more valuable to that Mavs team than Joel Embiid is to the Sixers team, or that Jokic is to the Nuggets team, because of the fact that you got guys like Doncic, who are playing with guys who are role players, who are bench players, who have never made an all-star team in their lives. You got guys like Embiid, who are playing with a guy like James Harden, who's a top 5 player arguably in the league, or top 10 player, and was an MVP winner, should have won 2 MVPs. That's where this consideration about most valuable comes into play. And I think, personally speaking, if you take all of the stuff that I mentioned there into consideration, that hands down puts Jokic as the most valuable in this case.
Yeah, I think, like, you're spot on. Like, you had the stats to prove it, but you take Jokic out of Denver Nuggets. They're a significantly worse team without Jokic, but in comparison to Giannis and Joel Embiid, who obviously are the 3 front runners. But look, I know everybody's talking about who's the MVP. Is it Embiid? Is it Jokic? To me, it's neither. I think Giannis deserves to be a 2-time MVP. But, before I get into Giannis and why I think he's the MVP, I just want to acknowledge Nikola Jokic, because he is having a fantastic, obviously a historical season. I mean, the Nuggets, once again, everybody knows they're the first seed. Nicola's putting up a triple-double, but it's not even just that. Like, he's arguably putting up career numbers, which are 25, 12, and 10, but then he's shooting 63% from the field and borderline 40% from 3, which, like, crazy. Like, 43% from 3 40% from 3, 63 from the field with the triple-double, unheard of. But, it's obviously extremely close. Like, either 3 are deserving, Embiid, Giannis, or Nikola Jokic. Not everybody will be happy. I feel like the media narrative, they're definitely pushing the Embiid for MVP, specifically like of recently. But I really do think that it's out of Jokic and Giannis. The Bucks, I mean, you don't really need to account winning into this, but the Bucks, they are the best team in the league probably as of now. They have the best record in the league. And even with the downfall of Chris Middleton, I think Giannis has just taken to another level that he's already reached. Like, we thought he reached his ceiling, but he's taken it to another level. It sounds so cliche, but like 32, 12, and 6. I know it's not great to just look at numbers side by side, but 32, 12, and 6 compared to 25, 12, and 10. He's putting up he's putting up the least amount of minutes in comparison to Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. Out of all 3 of them, he's averaging the least amount of minutes and least amount of minutes played. and they have the best record in the league, the Milwaukee Bucks.
One of the best defenses.
If it was a 2-way to 3-way tie, one of the best defenses in the league, and that's mainly because of Giannis, who I left out of my all-defensive team. Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday. I'm not going to give Giannis all the credit there, which, look, I probably should because he's my MVP, but I'm not going to do that because I don't think he is the primary reason why. But, if it was a 3-way tie, I'm not going to be mad, but you haven't really made the best claim for Giannis right there. I just think he's the best player in the world, and I think the Bucks are the best team. And he's given me every reason why I think he could and should win an MVP again.
The way I look at it and the way I could make a claim against Jokic is, again, the reason why I don't think he'll win it, even though I do believe he'll win it. I'm just saying if I'm thinking from like a voter's perspective and guys in the media that vote and guys and girls in the media that vote for this stuff, ultimately the way I look at it, it's voter fatigue is a big part of it. Again, even guys like LeBron. Even guys like LeBron James, they, over the years, haven't won 3 in a row, where he realistically could have won 4 or 5 in a row, you know what I mean? Hence his dominance over that period of time. And you got other guys, like Michael Jordan could have realistically won 10 MVPs, you got Kobe, who should have won more than one. You got guys like Shaq and Allen Iverson, realistically speaking, probably could have won a few more MVPs, but the way things go in the NBA is media plays a big part, recency bias plays a big part, and voter fatigue plays a big part. One thing that I'm not a big fan of, though, in the whole MVP race is them factoring in playoff success and playoff results.
You can't, because it's a regular season award,
But that's what a lot of the guys on ESPN and on these sports talk shows are advocating for. It's like, but I think it's because we held Giannis in such a regard where when he won his MVPs, his back-to-back MVPs, everyone was saying that he shouldn't have won him because, they were, not that he shouldn't have won it, but they were piling more pressure and saying, how can we put this guy on such a pedestal now when he hasn't had playoff success? So I think it's only fair that he went on and won his championship and is proven to the naysayers that he does deserve to be amongst the best players in the world. You can make the case for any 3 of these guys, and if it wasn't that they all had the same season that they are having at the same time, then there's a clear winner in all 3 of them. If each of these guys had this season when none of the other guys did, then it's a clear-cut winner. But because it's so tight, that's where these hairs start getting split, nitpicking starts to happen, and it's a really tough call. But I think we're doing a disservice and an injustice to a lot of these guys by saying that they're not deserving, or we're trying to downplay how good of a season each of these guys have had because we're trying to distinguish a clear MVP win, and I don't think that's fair in its own right, if that makes sense.
100%. And just very quickly going off what you said, it's obviously a regular season award, and I know a lot of my friends they are NBA casuals, some of them won't admit it, but they go towards the route that Nikola Jokic, he doesn't deserve it because he hasn't really gone that far in the playoffs. I don't know, he hasn't had a healthy MPJ, Jamal Murray, in the past couple of years, obviously. And once again, they're the first seed. It's a regular season award. He's put up amazing numbers, and they're any chance, to be honest, this year to compete for an NBA championship if there's any year. So I think Jokic is more than deserving. Obviously, Embiid is too. And obviously Giannis is too. So 3 guys. It'll be very interesting to see who wins the MVP.